Hello Zimbabwe. I hope I find you well. I'm going to talk about Vice President Constantino Chiwenga, the retired general, our Vice President. And the question out there is VP Chiwenga going to stage another coup in Zimbabwe? Is it possible for him to do that? How will he do it? Because there are power struggles which are being reported at the moment inside the ruling ZANU-PF party, between President Emmerson Mnangagwa and VP Chiwenga. Okay, for starters, people should understand that in 2017, in November, it was not an easy feat, for VP Chiwenga and the other senior military officials who were behind him to topple President Robert Mugabe. It was a very, 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 very risky affair, and if he made one silly mistake at the time, only one silly mistake, it could have cost him his life. He could have been charged with treason for sure. So now some people are saying that, well, he's no longer, the Minister of Defense. That portfolio has been taken away from him, and that President Mnangagwa has received numerous endorsements, from almost all the 10 provinces in Zimbabwe. But in reality, in our country, if your party endorses you, all the provinces, from Mashonaland East, Manicaland, Matebeleland, all these provinces, it means nothing. Political endorsements, that is not where the power lies. The power lies with the state security machinery. And whether we like to believe it, love it or not, General Chiwenga still has, retired General Chiwenga still has the respect of senior military officials and some generals who are also serving in government, the likes of Foreign Affairs Minister S.B. Moyo, Agriculture and Lands Minister Parents Shiri. Soldiers, they move together, So there were recent reports that the army warned President President Emmerson Mnangagwa that he has to fix the economy and make the economy right, get the economy working, because they fear that the opposition is going to stage mass demonstrations and protests which might result in President Mnangagwa being prematurely toppled from power, you see. And now the same military, it seems like there's a faction, rallying around VP Chiwenga, which is saying that, if the economy gets worse, if the economy collapses, they will just probably back VP Chiwenga, and we are likely to see the same scenario which happened in November 2017. This time around, it is a whole lot much easier for General Chiwenga to pull it, if he's going to decide to go that route, because the first time it was a little bit complicated because President Robert Mugabe had been in power for like 35 years. The security machinery was intact, especially the Central Intelligence Organization, the CIO. You know how good they are. But one thing which Chiwenga and General Sibanda, who's now ZDF commander, did was that through the military intelligence, they managed to disable the CIO, the police. So from there on, it was very, very, very kind of easy, although it was a risky affair. They managed to neutralize these other security departments, security organizations which were loyal to then President Robert Mugabe. Another thing which people also fail to understand is that General Chiwenga here, from our information, from sources, people who know military affairs, they tell us that he also enjoys the support of China, just like President Mnangagwa. You remember that President Mnangagwa is a trained Chinese student in military engineering, but you know, the Chinese, they don't put all their eggs in one basket. So the information is that VP Chiwenga is also like an ally of the Chinese, because a lot happened when he was in China in November 2017. You know, he met with the Chinese military chief. At the time, the media reported that no, these are routine meetings which happened between military heads of Zimbabwe and China. But the media failed to get, you know, the information of the contents of what was discussed in those meetings. Even the Chinese media, they couldn't break it. It's very, very, very difficult. You never know what these military generals talk about, what these military generals discuss about. So VP Chiwenga does have a lot of support. VP Chiwenga does have military allies, you know. Some people think that if you are now retired, you no longer have power. That is not true, you know. Some even become more powerful, and in the case of retired General Chiwenga, is now more powerful than ever before. I also hear that he is the chairman of the Joint Operations Command, JOC. You know, you remember that JOC is this shadowy quasi-military organization which brings together the police force, the army, the prison services, and the Central Intelligence Organization. You know, the CIO are also on the Joint Operations Command. And the general, the retired general, is said to be co-chairing that JOC with his counterpart, Vice President Mohadi. So some people think that, you know, President Mnangagwa, you know, has already scored success, that it is a sealed and a done deal. It is not a sealed and done deal, you know, because at any moment, at any time, General Chiwenga can pull this military push or military coup, if it comes to that, really, because the other information we're getting is that the general is not happy with all these endorsements. It means that he has to wait for 2023 to come and wait another 5 years to 2028. I don't think he's going to be that patient to wait for 2028 to assume power, you know. If things go wrong, if their political battles really become vicious, I believe that VP Chiwenga has an upper hand, because the military are a team. You know, they always move together, they support one another, and this can also be reflected by this commission, you know, of inquiry, which was headed by the former South African president, who was in the country, you know, for the past 3 months, Motlanthe, I think. The military, they don't betray each other or sell each other out. You can hear from their testimonies which they gave when they were invited before the commission. They didn't blame anyone. They didn't blame each other. So the question is, will the center hold? Because unlike President Mugabe's era, he could, you know, hold the party together. He was the glue. He was the concrete. But at the moment, there is no party official in the current administration who can hold the ruling party together. So I do believe that people are underestimating retired General Chiwenga, you know, maybe because he's not a learned politician, like some of the leaders who are leading the country. You know, people poke fun of him. They think he's not well educated. But the difference between people like Chiwenga is that, you know, they are trained soldiers. You know, they are military people. They are there for action. They are not there for speeches. And the fact that people undermine him and underestimate him is what makes him dangerous. So I think that he stands a very good chance if he so decides to say, okay, now I want to grab this thing, because many people believe that he should be president anyway. You know, he was very instrumental together with General Sibanda to organize the escape of President Mnangagwa to South Africa and for his safe return, you see. So is it possible for another coup to be staged, and will it be successful? From the information we are gathering and according to the people we're talking to, you know, our sources inside government, it is very, very, very possible. And it will also be bloodless. You know, this time it will be far much easier, you know, for the military, you know, those who are said to be backing Vice President Chiwenga to pull it off, okay? Because now the military intelligence unit in Zimbabwe